As producers, we heavily depend on our ears. That's why we should train them. So in this video, I want to share 10 ear training tips for people who make house, techno, or even EDM. A really fun and great little exercise that you can do to start your ear training journey is to practice your abilities to recognize the frequency of a single sine wave. And if you head over to my website, olienshaus.com, I just added this brand new ear trainer section over here, which you can use completely for free. And in here, you basically have some different exercises that you can do to train your ears. And the first one is this frequency trainer. So if we hit play, it's going to play a sine wave. We then have to guess, okay, what frequency range is this landing in? I'm going to hit replay and give you a second to guess. I'm surprised usually with how high sine waves can sound, even though they're not up that high in the frequency spectrum. So I would say this is probably in the mid 600 hertz to 2K. So that was correct. It was 1.5. Let's hit one more. Okay, now we're lower. I'm going to hit replay and give you a second to guess. So it's not bassy enough to be 40 to 80 hertz, but it's also, starts sounding more melodic up here. So I would say this is 80 to 250. Okay, it was 143. It takes a moment to get used to it and kind of figure this out, but then you get better quickly. You can then make things more difficult. For example, go to an intermediate level. Okay, here I would say it's either 1K or 500. Let's play one more time. Okay, let's say 500 hertz. Okay, correct, it was 522. If you get much better at this even, but here it gets a bit difficult, at the advanced level, you then basically have to write in the frequency which is playing in here. Okay, not that bassy, but not that high. Let's say it's like 120 and see if we got close. Okay. It says not quite, but for me, 120 and 174 is actually pretty nice. It's really important that you understand and recognize certain frequency ranges. That's why I created this Bandpass trainer, which gives you an audio source and then splits it with a bandpass filter in different frequency ranges. You have to guess, okay, what frequency range am I hearing? Pink noise and white noise are also things that you can train with, kind of just to train your ears. But I would say you want to do this with a track. So I put an example track in here. If you hit play, you can now basically, you have this bar, you can jump through the track and now guess, okay, what am I hearing? We're not hearing the really highs and we're not getting the stuff that's in here. So I would say it's 2.5 to 6K. That's correct. Let's do one more. So here, we hear quite some mid-range, right? I tried to focus, okay, what elements do I hear? Probably here. All right, that's right. That was, of course, one of my tracks. If you have tracks that you like or you know, or some of your own productions that you want to do this with, you can just use the upload audio option and drop that in here. But as I said, you want to work as closely as possible to the material that you actually make music with, or ideally you want to train inside of your own DAW, which is why I also created this Bandpass and EQ trainer as a Max for Live tool, which you can use to train directly inside of Ableton Live. If you don't have the Suite version or Ableton Live, I also created this tool as an external app, which means you can use this little VST plugin, which then sends the audio to this app, which is basically the same to train. For now, let's just use the Max tool for a second. But for example, if we play this track over here, I just placed this on the master. I can now hit next question. And it's going to apply the bandpass once again. So here, what do we hear? Probably something like this. Okay, that was correct. Let's now check out the EQ trainer. The nice thing now, if you have this inside of your DAW with this tool or with the app, you can do this for each single element, right? So for example, we can use just the drums. We can now hear, okay, we're really training on here. It's probably sitting up here or something like this. That was close, one higher. Next question. Okay, now I really hear the high end. Let's check out this one. Okay, that was correct. Moving on to the EQ trainer, because this was kind of to train different frequency ranges and stuff like that, right? Now we kind of want to go into the realm of listening for boosts and cuts. And if you now hit over here, you have the EQ option, and you basically can also check a level, beginner, intermediate, and pro. You have to guess, is it a boost or a cut? And where is that boost or cut? Let's do that for the whole track, actually. Might be a bit easier. Okay, next question. Okay. This is level matched, because if we boost or cut, the level of course changes. So we really have to listen carefully. It sounds a bit bloated. We can then press original. To me, it seems like they're boosting 130 to 300. Let's check that out. Okay, that was correct. It was a 12 dB boost. So 12 dB is obviously quite a lot, but that's just the beginner level. The further you go down in intermediate and pro, it's going to be less of a cut and less of a boost. And of course, you kind of have to get used to the level matchedness of things, but it's actually really important to train your ears with level matched audio, because otherwise you would just hear, okay, a boost is louder, a cut is quieter. We actually want to listen for the EQ. But EQ and frequency ranges are, of course, not the only things we want to train our ears for, even though they're probably the most important. The next two things I would focus on are compression, or more broadly dynamics, because you can adjust dynamics with many different tools, and then saturation. Let's jump right into an exercise inside of the drum channel over here. And we're going to solo this to just have the clap. And I have a compressor ready behind here. And the first most important thing I already mentioned is you have to train your ears level matched. So if we, for example, say we want to train our ears for compression, and compress quite a bit. If we now A/B this, there's just a huge difference in volume, right? So you could recognize this by just saying, oh, okay, the compressor is on when it's quiet, the compressor is off when it's loud. But that's not what training your ear for compression is. Your main goal is to make the output exactly as loud as the input. So let's check that out. That's actually quite good. But since we're compressing quite heavily here, it's still pretty obvious, right? So how I would train now my ears is I close my eyes and hit the on-off button many, many times until I'm not sure anymore if it's turned on or off. So let's do that. So that's on. That's off. Correct, right? So here it was still, the level matching could be slightly better and the difference is really big. And that's my next tip. I start with a really big difference to kind of understand what happens in an extreme scenario. And then I make the difference smaller and smaller, just like in the other trainers where you start at the basic level and get more and more advanced. Basically, let's just bring up the threshold. Okay. So we have to adjust the volume. A bit more. Okay. Now it's still relatively obvious, but that's a good thing. You're getting to know what compression sounds like. But something that kind of goes hand in hand with this is, at least that's how I personally work, I also try to think, okay, what actually happens? What do I expect when I compress the clap? And since it's a dynamic tool, we're bringing down the loud part, which will make the tail and the reverb and this part here louder and thicker in a way, right? And then I use this info to see, okay, is that really what happens? So this is no compression. I really feel how this part back here, the is more present. Here it's relatively snappy. This, like the noisy part, this part, just gets a bit louder. Let's bring this down to 0, or maybe to, let's bring this down to 1, and also this up once again. So it really has to be level matched, because otherwise you're going to be fooling yourself into believing you hear the compression and you just hear the level difference. That's one of the most important parts. And now, I feel like, okay, I know I'm hearing the difference. But one of the other most important things is that if you believe you can hear a difference and you feel like you hear a difference, really doesn't mean that you actually hear a difference. That's why you have to work with your eyes closed and do enough tries. So if I, for example, now guess on and off, let's say I click a bunch of times and I guess, okay, what is it? If I now guessed correctly and was saying, okay, this is compressor on, my chance was really 50-50. Just by guessing once, I don't know if I really heard the difference. And it's tricky with our brains because you can really fool yourself into thinking that you hear something, but the goal is to really get comfortable with hearing something and being confident about hearing a difference. For that, you should probably do 10 guesses. And if you got like 8 or 9 of them right, you really heard the difference, okay? There was a fun little video which caused some controversy lately about preamps. I'm going to link it in the description, which really covers this idea of people thinking that they hear a difference in things where there might not actually be a difference. And this is like really A/Bing it well and doing enough rounds of testing will ensure that you actually hear the difference. And just like we used compression on the clap here, you could do this for any element that you have in your project. For example, also the kick or the drum boss and things like that. Let's do maybe a little bit of saturation training and use just the kick for that. Let's drive it. Here we clearly hear the distortion, right? Let's turn it on. Really clear. Distortion, no distortion. So let's make less. And listen for that. Now it's a lot more subtle. You train it, maybe add a little bit more here, make it a bit more obvious for YouTube. Okay, that's clear. Also, it's also still clear. Off, on, and then you go work your way down basically. You can do the same thing with dry wet. You can also use a compressor in dry wet for some parallel compression, ear training. That's something I would definitely do in here. Really, any tool that you use in your production process or anything that you do within the production process, you can train your ears for that by A/Bing or finding ways to kind of quiz yourself on this. For example, getting more into the realm of musical ear training, I created some different clips with a different amount of swing and tried to train my ears on that. To kind of hear the difference. So here I would say it's without swing, and here if you look, I had a different swing. Those are also different things that you can train. Of course, there are different types of ear training. The first part we talked about was more of a technical ear training, which is about recognizing frequencies or characteristics and sounds and how they change. Musical ear training is more about things like melody, harmony, rhythm, and stuff like that. If we go back to my website, I actually also added this interval trainer, which you can use to kind of train your ears to recognizing certain intervals, which is really helpful if you want to learn how to replicate certain bass lines or hear a melody and want to get faster at playing that or replicating that. So that was a perfect fourth, I think. All right. So this is also a nice way to train your ears for stuff like that, which kind of brings me to the last tip already. We are kind of beat makers or make house, techno, and EDM. We don't have to train our ears all day. The focus is always on producing music. So we don't need the musical ear of a concert pianist, a multi-instrumentalist who can just play sheet music. And we also don't need the perfectly trained ear of someone who mixes and masters full-time for a living, right? Of course, both sides or whatever you can do for training your ears is going to help. But at the end of the day, you want to find a nice balance which suits whatever you want to do. And I would say, if you're new to this, I would spend a few months just doing a little bit each day maybe, and then afterwards do less. And then later on, I think the ear training gets more and more specific to tools that you want to try out. Like if you're listening for preamps or compressors and you really want to know what impact it has, you kind of, while you're producing, have to see, okay, do I hear the difference? How much of that do I want? So maybe some early ear training will actually shape the way you produce music to then do ear training while you're actually making music. But yeah, that was it for today. If you want to support the channel, check out the ear training tools that I talked about in this video. I think they are going to be helpful for some of you out there. And also, if you have any other favorite ear training exercises that you like to do, let us know in the comments. And besides that, I'm looking forward to see you in the next video. Ciao.